Hey guys, so today the new patch with buddies being reintroduced came out today. First relevant thing is we have a new battle bash coming. I believe that was where you pay $10 or $20 for like a pass, and for every top 4 you get a random cosmetic here. And then going on to the actual Battlegrounds updates, these are really huge updates. So the first one is the buddies are back for the update. This also means that heroes that don't have buddies get their own buddies, and quite a few buddies have a bit of a rework. Heroes now have 30 health. The tiers are being removed for armor. So this effectively makes it so some heroes will have quite a bit less armor, because before the minimum HP was 40, but now it can be 35, and the higher end of this is still the same. You can still have like 50 life essentially. And this is a change that was also in the original buddy patch, which was leveling up to tier 5 is like 11 gold. It's 2 more than before. I think it's because it was to compensate for the power level of buddies, and they don't want people to power level up to 5 and 6 too quickly. So this might essentially force some heroes to stay down a turn when they really want to level. And then yeah, with the new minion updates, some of the buddies will have their types changed too. The mechanics of them work differently as well. Before there used to be the buddy meter, which was pretty complicated. They never really explained completely how that works, but now it's nice and simple. There's just a buddy button that you can push. Initial cost is based on the buddy's tavern tier, so I think it was from like 2 to 4 from what I remember. It seems like now there's actually even higher tier buddies from tavern 1 to tavern 6. But yeah, it has initial cost, and then every single fight basically it gets reduced a little bit by whether or not you win or tie or lose a fight. So it's reduced by 3 gold each time you win a combat or tie a combat, and then reduced by 2. So you still incentivized to win or tie combats, but it's not too big of a deal like to deal damage or have high damage minions, which is what the buddy meter used to be like. It seems like all the numbers are just neatly incremented by 2. You can expect like usually a turn longer for the higher tier ones. Like a tavern 4 buddy might come like a little bit later. It depends on the curve though. I'm not too sure how the math will work out here, but it's very dependent, I think, on all the different heroes and their buddies. Some may want to get them a lot earlier, some may be able to wait for them, just depending on how the heroes works in your curve. And one other huge change is this new hero, ETC Band Manager. The hero power is sign a new artist for 4 gold, and you can discover a buddy, and this unlocks at tier 2. I guess you have to be on tier 2 for it. And then this is similar to the card Friend of a Friend, where there are some buddies that aren't in that pool, usually because they're either useless with the hero, like you need specific hero power to work off of it, or they might be too strong. Unfortunately, I don't know quite what the Friend of a Friend limitations were. At first glance, this is kind of alarming because Friend of a Friend was really strong, and that was a tier 6 card that had Battlecry Discover a Buddy. And this is it just costs like 4 gold instead of a minion that you buy for 3. And then its buddy is the Talent Scout, tier 5. It's a 4/4, and it's Battlecry, make a buddy golden. So this would make a buddy on your board golden. It means if you have like a Battlecry buddy, then it's not going to be too effective. And then we have an update here for Shutterwalk. They changed the hero power from being 1 gold, add a 1/1 Shutterling to your hands twice per game, to now it's just 0 gold. You can trigger a friendly minion's Battlecry. So essentially you'll have a free Battlecry every single turn as long as you actually have one on your board. And since this is still banned in beast lobbies, it'd be best with like a Shell Collector start or say like a Swabby. Shell Collector will definitely be the best minion by far, since it curves out the cleanest. And then Quinn Walk got reworked. Instead of it being a button that you push for 1 gold, it's now a passive one. And it says at the start of combat, give 3 friendly minions of different types, stats equal to tavern tiers. This one is significantly stronger. Usually hero powers where you need to spend golds to get stats, they're not too effective because you don't really want to push them early. If you're playing like a normal curve, you'd have to stay down like Wagtoga used to on tier 1. But now you can level however you want, and you just get free stats, which is quite strong for just any hero. Like leveling up and getting free stats for nothing, it gives you so much early game advantage, but it will fall off later. I think the game might be a little faster with how the life totals are changing. So this could be like a huge advantage if the game is faster. Then we have some new buddies coming out as well. So Queen of Char didn't have a buddy, and their buddy is now a tier 3 Naga with a 2/4 stat line. Whenever you cast a spellcraft on a different minion, you also cast it on this. So this is kind of like Stormscale Siren from when Nagas just came out. That was a card that was like at the end of your turn, like your friendly spellcraft minions cast spells on themselves. Or it's just you get a bunch of extra spellcraft procs, but this is where you have to cast them during your shop phase, and then I'll cast it on this. It means that this minion can potentially scale pretty hard, but the biggest use case of it is just additional spell procs with Naga cards like Athissa, like Spell Wrangler, or a Critter Wrangler, and Eventide Brute. But you will also get like a really big minion out of it too. They just won't really be permanent though, so you have to scale this some other way, usually like Athissa or Critter Wrangler, especially with Queen of Char. But Queen of Char is going to get a lot of different spellcraft minions, so it'll be like a lot of tempo early on. Then we have Azamat, Tamazu, a tier 3, it's a beast, 4/4, Avenge 2, upgrade Tentacular by +1/+1. So this means that the minion that summons from the hero power, usually that one scales just by the amount of minions that you've sold during the game. It'll also scale in combat too, and it also scales just off of Tentacular dying itself too, so it's pretty good. It's gonna make it so this hero definitely wants to summon the minion more. Sometimes you would just play 7 minions and not want to summon the Tentacular, but yeah, now it's probably going to scale pretty quickly. And this is one that I'm kind of scared of. Like, this seems really broken. Lady Voss's is Coilfang Elite. It's a tier 2 Naga with 3/4. After spellcraft minion appears in Bob's Tavern, get a copy of its spell. This gives you like a ridiculous amount of spellcraft spells. And this is way stronger, I think, than Queen of Char's one, which gives it gives you 1 extra spell like only when you play them. If you just roll down your shops, you get a lot of spells, and you don't have to actually even spend the money to buy spellcrafts. That's usually one issue with Naga scaling, is the cost of buying spellcraft minions is pretty high, but now you just get them for free, and you can also target them however you want to. So if you're playing like a cleave build with Critter Wrangler and Coilfang, you can easily scale it very, very well with just this. And then the golden version of this just gives you 2 more too. And it's not like too hard of a minion to keep around as well, because it's a Naga, you know, it gives you tempo, and it's also pretty easy to triple because it's a tier 2. And then we have Heist Baron, Togwoggle, Wax of Dread, the Drippy. Tier 4, it's a Dragon Alley, which is one of those buddies they're talking about. They had to adjust the minion type. And it's a 7/5 Battlecry Refresh Bob's Tavern with the highest tier minion from each opponent's last warband. So this will fill it up with 7 minions, assuming that all 7 players have a minion on their board. This is like exempt from heroes that have either conceded turn 1 or just sold off their board before they conceded. And this has a lot of synergy with the hero power, because you can play this and then you can just use your hero power to steal all them, and usually those minions will be pretty good too. But it is a tier 4 minion, and it can be a little expensive to get to, but I think this will actually be a really strong card too. It fits very, very well with Tog's theme. And Tog doesn't even struggle that much with like early game, because you can always hero power a bunch of minions to get on board pretty quickly. Then we have Murloc Holmes, Watfin, tier 3 beast, 2/6. After you guess correctly with Detective for Hire, get a plain copy of the minion. So this is turning the hero power essentially into, instead of getting a coin, you get the minion whatever you copy. I want to say this is not as strong, just because usually those minions will end up being stuff you don't want anyways, or later on in the game it won't really matter. It's also like a very hard minion to keep later on in the game when it might be more useful. But Assuming you get this on like turn 5, it can help you fill up your board really well and then power level up. But the issue with it is, since you have to spend so much upfront cost to get the buddy by pushing the button, it's going to be kind of hard to power level up. But if you can get this early, I think you'll just use it kind of like Rendell before, where you power level up and you get a free minion per turn, assuming that you're good at guessing the correct minion. And then we have Sire Dynastrius, Shadia Ursacat. It's a tier 2, 2/2, and then you just discover a quest and you can complete it to get a 8 gold coin pouch. But I guess it won't actually be released on launch because there's a bug. But instead of getting an actual quest reward, you're only getting a 8 coin pouch, which it's really hard to judge this here because you don't know like how easy or hard these quests will be to complete. The reward is exactly the same for whatever quest that you do, and this is something that's very dependent on, you know, how easy is it to get 8 coins or 8 gold. If it takes like 2 or 3 turns, it's really good, but yeah, it's just hard to say. And there's a lot of RNG as well with the quest options that you get chosen. And then we have Sylvanas, Windrunner, Nathanius, Blight Caller, tier 5 undead, 3/6, Battlecry, remove a friendly minion, give it stats to its neighbors. So this was actually very similar to the old hero power for this hero, which was, I believe, a 1 gold. You would target a friendly minion and then it would die, or it would get removed, and then you'd give your neighbors like +1/+1 or something silly. This is quite a bit stronger though. This is essentially, you can get the you can just buff up whatever you want and get a ton of stats from it too. You're like doubling the stats on whatever it is that you removed. And this is also the first tier 5 buddy that we've seen in the game, I believe. So really powerful with cards like Hydra, Firebird, and like I forget the name of the horses, but yeah, the horse card as well, that undead reborns with all of the enchantments. And it's a good hero to put it on too, because you just passively scale with your hero power. So I assume you'll probably want to use the hero power a lot early, just to make sure that you win your fights and get this early on, and hopefully have a good minion to transfer your stats to. The Jailer has a tier 3 undead with 3/3, Death Rattle, summon 3 random tier 1 minions. So this synergizes really well with either revenge cards or just Jailer's hero power in general. It comes out relatively early. It does have a tribe too. Pretty good potentially with a lot of the undead cards, assuming that you get undead cards from the Death Rattle. But this hero and this like buddy can also be offered if undead isn't in. So I think when undead isn't in, it might be a lot less useful, especially considering how Avenge has fallen off a little bit since it got introduced. People aren't really playing Avenge comps that much in high MMR games. And then we have Enhanso Mechanico, Enhanso Medico, Tavern tier mech. It's a 2/3 minions in Bob's Tavern with taunt, reborn, divine shield, or wind fury. Have +1/+1 for each. So I mean, this comes out pretty early, and it's not too exciting of an effect, but raw stats is always good. It's just kind of tough to see this one being too strong because it's hard to stack a bunch of stats off this. Like, it just buffs up some stuff a little bit early on, which is really good for tempo, but it doesn't really help you scale later on, especially since as you play scaling comps that scale by buying things in the shop, you don't really care if they have like Taunt, Reborn, Divine Shield, or Wind Fury. Usually you're looking for like Battlecry cards with Caligos, or like Murlocs or Dragons, or you're looking for like neutral cards with T-Master, and those really don't care if those minions have these attributes. Then we have Professor Peacherside, Festergut. It's a tier 4 undead 5/2. Death Rattle, summon a random undead creation. I assume this is limited by your tavern tier, but the randomness part of it makes it kind of bad. This can actually screw you over because there is one undead card that comes from the Discover that I think almost no one picks. Like I've never seen it in the game. It's like Death Rattle. It deals 5 damage to your board and your board only. So maybe we can see some funny highlight clips from this card. But I think this is too random to be consistently good. It is a decent tempo card though, which is maybe just what Petricide needs. So Petricide can greed some tier 6 Discovers off of the hero power. And then we have Tehran Shadowy Construct. It's a tier 3 undead 3/4. After a final minion dies, give its neighbor +1/+1. This does not appear to be permanent because it's in combat. So it's just a tempo card, but it's a really big tempo card. There used to be a card kind of like this called Karaji, which was a tier 4 5/5, and it said after a taunt minion died, give its neighbors +2/+2. This is very similar to that, except you don't even need it to be taunt. It can just be a friendly minion. So given that and the fact that the hero power just makes something die initially on combat, it's a pretty powerful card. I could definitely see a lot of easy early game fights won because of specifically this buddy. And those are all the new buddies that came out for the heroes that didn't have them. Now I have a few changes. So Drugdar's buddy got changed to a 7/4 tier 3. Bench 3. The minions in the tavern have +1 attack for the rest of the game. So this is really, really good with the mechs in, because that can scale super easily just by buying magnetics. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Cook's Book, the quest reward. And that one was a really powerful quest. But the only issue is you don't actually get HP, so that build can be pretty weak to certain token strategies. But I like this instead of buffing up things in the on your board, because a lot of times you don't actually care about most of the things that you're buffing up. And they have Vandar. It's essentially the same as this one, but it's Avenge 2 instead of attack. You get HP. I'd say this is probably a lot less useful, but Vandar as a hero is better than Drugdar as a hero without buddies, so maybe this will match up their usefulness a little bit. And the Lease had to get changed because his hero power changed completely. It's now a tier 2 3/3 battlecry. Reduce the cost of your hero power by 2. So it's kind of just like a free 2 golds, and it might be pretty clean too because you can get this like with the cost of your hero power. But not nearly as good as Elise's old buddy, which was, it would just give you a map like every single turn it was on your board. So you don't really have incentive to keep this on your board or golden it, but it's a fun card, I guess. We have Gilling. This was a really nice change. The stat line and the tier is completely the same. Or actually, I think it might be a tier 3 now instead of a tier 2. But your flight pass triggered twice instead of being like a reduction on the time it takes to complete a flight path. So let me see, so you can discover twice, get 2/2/2 buffs, or you can get like 4 gold. Pretty good. This one is a lot nicer to keep on board, but again, it's pretty hard to keep this one on board because it has no tribe and it's pretty weak later on. But I think Galing's already a pretty strong hero by itself, so the help it needs is not really that much. Then we have Quinn Walk toggle. It's still a tier 4. It's a 5/3 battlecry. Gain 1 gold for each minion type you control. I'd say this is a lot weaker than the old one, which used to scale up your board based on minions that you played. Gold is typically a lot less valuable than buffs like continuously, but this is like a completely different hero now, so maybe Queen doesn't need the help as much. But Queen was actually, I think, the best hero in the game right when buddies came out because of how strong the buddy was and the very consistent playstyle of staying on 1. And then Stylus got a huge rework too. It's a Tavern 4 3/6. Whenever you discover a minion, give it +4/+4 and upgrade this by +1/+1. Discovering is kind of hard because you have to do it through either minions that discover or triples or the tickets. This buddy used to help you actually proc your ticket discoveries, because it give you gold every time you bought a ticket. Now this seems a little underwhelming compared to what it used to be, but you can't really underestimate like cards that do end up scaling and giving you free stats. And the Rana is slightly different too. It's a Tavern 2 4/4. After you buy a minion, your next refresh costs 0. This used to be after you play a minion, your next refresh costs 0. And that was really strong with elementals in because of Elemental and Tad and Scout. But now it's only when you buy it. And it also means that you can't strategically stagger your minions out to like continuously get rolls. If you're buying like 3 minions in a shop, then you're only getting 1 refresh, whereas before you could buy them and hold them and then only use them after you've rolled. But I still think this hero will be pretty good. Arano was like insanely good with the old hero power. There's also a lot of very reliable early tier strats. I assume there would probably be something like that too. Lich King also got a change as well. It's a Tavern 3 Beast Undead 4/3. After a friendly minion is reborn, give it this minion's attack. This one is a little weird because this is kind of like an undead / beast card. If those tribes are in, this buddy's not very useful. Because the only time you can reborn is with either Mech Demon with Mechadraxus or with the hero power naturally from Lich King. So, at least for me, I'll probably be picking this hero when Undead is in for sure. But without Undead, I think it's going to be very underwhelming. And then for these changes here, these are basically like changes to stop brand being abused on these. Trade Prince Galliwix's buddy is now a tier 3 6/3, and you can choose one, give a minion +1 attack for each gold you spent this turn, or +1 health. It used to be +1/+1 for every gold that you spent, and it used to be a battle cry, but now it's significantly weaker, which is fine because Galliwix itself as a hero is much stronger. And yeah, they're mentioning that they want to make it not so powerful brand. Ticketus is the same thing. It's functionally the same except for instead of a battle cry, it's when you sell it, which is actually pretty significant because it's a decent card on its own just for playing it, and you can't get the spike without sacrificing the stats. But the other upside to this is you can play this immediately if you wanted to say greed for like a tier like a turn 12 discover instead of like a turn 8. If you like got it on turn 6, you could just wait to sell it when it's turn 8. And then y'all got hit by a similar nerf. It's when you sell it instead of the battle cry, and it's just spinning the wheel of Yoxron. And then we have Cariel. This is, I think, a completely new buddy actually. So it's a Tavern tier 4, 7 attack, 5 HP. Choose one. You can either give +2 attack for the rest of the game or +2 HP. And this is for the hero power conviction. So I'm assuming attack will usually be the one that will be chosen in most games, because that's the more important stat anyways. Cariel always likes to play like mechs or like dragons or something like that. And then we have Maleficent's back. It's a Tavern tier 4 mech. Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion for each of your mechs that died this combat. Trying to figure out what the change is here. I think they just nerfed the attack on this quite a bit, but this was a really strong buddy back in the day. Yeah, I think it's just the amount of damage that got dealt, because it's still mechs. Not sure why this is in this range then. And then we have Master Nguyen. Oh wow, this is the first tier 1 buddy that we've seen. Still haven't seen a tier 6 buddy yet, but this one is a tier 1 2/5, and it's exactly the same. I think it's just giving you 3 options instead of 2. And then the golden will give you 4 instead of 2. Which I like. The buddy was a little underpowered before. Hoping this one won't be too overpowered though, because it's hard to judge exactly how strong this is. And then we have Hook Tusk. This also got changed to a tier 1, and it's a very similar buddy to Pandas as well. It's just opening up the amount of options that you discover from. Oh wow, and we also have new minions too. We have Poetic Penpal, tier 2, 2/4. Battlecry reduced the cost of your next buddy by 2. It's very fitting for this patch. Yeah, I mean it's just like a nice econ minion, because like every single hero wants to be getting their buddy usually, and this helps you bank some gold for it. It's basically like a free minion, and the stat line's not the worst, but it's not great. Leeching Felhound, a new demon, tier 3, 3/3. This costs health to buy instead of gold. Wow, this is really cool. I like it. It's great when you're going 3-on-3, or if you have a Mal'Ganis, or not a Mal'Ganis, a Catherine. Does this synergize anything else? Not really. I don't think any other heroes are like immune or want to take damage, besides maybe like Patrick and his buddy. And then we have Fireworks Fanatic, a tier 4, 4/3. Whenever you get a minion you already have, give your minions +1/+1. This triggers when a minion is added to your hand through any means. Okay, so I guess this is really good with things like elementals or whenever you want to buy pairs, but the fact that it's a neutral probably makes it pretty hard to want to play it. There are some strats that work really well with this, like Murlocs, because you'll have a lot of those as you discover Murlocs through lookouts or get them through tads. But I'm not too sure how good this one will actually be. It is a pretty good buff though, because it's all of your minions +1/+1. And then we have Dr. Boombox, tier 4 mech, 7/1. Death Rattle deals 7 damage to the 2 nearest enemy minions. So I assume this is like across the board. So this can be used to snipe Titus actually. Very cool. And it's also just more Titus synergy by itself too. We play this Titus. The only issue is it's hard to put this first, I assume, unless it just hits the leftmost minion and the second minion. Wow, mechs are about to get pretty spicy with this and the Squirrel Girl. And then we have Sly Raptor, tier 4 beast, 1/3 Death Rattle, summon another random beast, set its stats to 7/7. Ooh, very spicy too. This is really good with Mama Bear. I like this card. It's also just a very high tempo card as well. Sometimes you can get this early and summon like a Hydra or like a Highmane or a Rat Pack. It's gonna be a little toxic, I think, but it's fun. We have a new gem card, tier 4 Cobra, 3/4. Battlecry, play a blood gem on all your other Cobra. Nice. Always good to have more blood gem synergy. I think Cobra is actually the weakest tribe right now out of all the other ones. And we have Bone Mare. This used to be a constructed card. Let's see. Undead Beast, tier 5, 5/5. Battlecry, give a friendly minion +4/+4 and taunt. I can't really tell how good this is going to be in BGs, because there's like usually better targeted buffs than this, and usually when you buff up stuff you don't want to give it taunt, but it just means we also have another taunt giver, assuming they're not replacing a previous taunt Battlecry. And then Shell Collector got nerfed to a 2/1. It'll still be a really good card to buy on turn 1. Battlemaster got changed to give +2 health for each health your hero is missing, and this is because of heroes going from 40 HP to 30. And Terragosa has been moved from tier 3 to tier 4, probably because of, I forget which hero was really good at Terragosa before, but they had to do that similarly when buddies came in. And then we have Rendell, Kaboombot, Savannah Highmane, and Houndmaster being removed to compensate for the new minions that are added. And then they also have a armor tier, or let's see. Most buddies have adjusted buddy time tier. Armor tiers are gone, and now heroes just have a set amount of armor every game, between 5 and 20. Okay, and so these are all of the tiers. I want to see if there's a tier 6 buddy, because it seems like they're hinting at that. I don't actually see one. Maybe they'll add one in the future. But yeah, here is all of them. I'm probably not going to go through all of them, but this is it's not sorted. It'll be nice to sort them, but yeah, it seems like there's a few that are very high. I want to see which ones have 0 armor, just for fun. So Patchwork has 0. It just has 60 life based on his hero power, which is fine. That makes sense. Not a lot of heroes have 0 actually. Almost all of them have some armor. It seems like the lowest one is 8 right now, besides Patchwork. That's given to Gale Wing and Cookie. Top heroes in the meta right now. Lich B has 13. Vilhouse has 8. Makes sense. Scabs 9. And Ysera 8. Ysera's a little surprising, but it might just be really strong with the buddy. And then there's some asterisks too. Those heroes have large win rate disparities between lower MMR and higher MMR players, so their armor totals will be different in higher MMR lobbies. Daryl will have 15 armor, and you have 13. Might have 10. Patches will have 14 armor, and you still have 10. So they're not all because like the higher MMR players just pilot these heroes much better. It might be because they just do better in lower MMR, as in the case of Ysera having 10 in high MMR lobbies versus having 8. Wow, this was quite a huge patch. I guess my predictions are, I think the game might get a little bit quicker later on once people figure out very streamlined approaches to playing buddies, and I think buddies will matter a huge amount. I'm just kind of curious how people will end up curving out the buddy, because you do have to spend gold to get your buddy, so the timing is going to be very, very like hard to figure out initially, but I think people generally converge to like a set tactic for every single hero. But yeah, I'm really excited to play this later on my stream, and I'll upload some highlight videos as well for my best games.